Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Glow Theory podcast. I'm your host, J. Marie, and welcome to this episode. So, in today's episode, we will be discussing intimacy that feels like home, plus chemistry, comfort, and soul connection. Today's episode is one that touches deep, right in the places we don't always talk about. And we're diving into intimacy that feels like home and the real difference between chemistry, comfort, and a true soul connection. This is for anyone who's ever wondered, why did I feel so drawn to this person? Or why did it feel so easy but not deep? Or why does this person feel like I've known them forever? All right, so let's get right into it. All right, part one, what chemistry really is. So we're starting off with chemistry, because this is the one that fools us the most. Chemistry is the spark, it's the butterflies, the excitement, the pull. It's that person who walks into a room and your whole body reacts before your mind even can catch up to that. But the truth is, chemistry is not always the connection. It's just the magnetism. It's based on the hormones, the attraction, the energy pull, the fantasy, the projection. And of course, while this feels extremely intoxicating, chemistry by itself is unstable. You can have wild chemistry with someone who is not good for you at all. Sometimes chemistry is just two wounds speaking to each other. Sometimes it's just your unhealed parts recognizing theirs. And sometimes it's purely just physical. Hence why, when you just strictly have chemistry with somebody, but the relationship doesn't work out, it's because it's unstable. Of course, you can have chemistry with a lot of people, but it doesn't mean that you guys will have a fulfilling relationship. It does not mean that this person is your person forever. Because chemistry says, something about this person it just excites me. But it doesn't say, you know what, I'm safe with this person, I'm understood by this person, or I'm aligned with their soul. It's just the ignition, not the full engine. Chemistry is powerful. It hits you fast, it feels electric, and it can pull you towards someone almost instantly. But chemistry alone isn't proof that someone is meant for you. Sometimes chemistry is just your nervous system recognizing something familiar, not something aligned, like I was saying. But to go deeper into that, sometimes your body might be reacting to traits that feel like home, even if home, what you recognize right now, is chaotic or inconsistent or unsafe because of whatever your nervous system is used to. So the spark isn't always compatibility. Sometimes it's just your past trying to repeat itself within this person. Because true compatibility goes beyond the butterflies. It shows you and how someone loves you, communicates with you, or respects your boundaries and makes you feel emotionally secure. Chemistry is that fire, and compatibility is that foundation. But we will get right into that, of course, later on. But with chemistry, without that foundation, that fire burns out very quickly because your person isn't someone who just excites your spirit. It's a person who brings you clarity, not confusion. They don't make your heart race, they make you feel safe, they make your soul feel safe, they make your heart feel safe. And sometimes the strongest chemistry is actually the biggest lesson you'll have to learn in this life. But the right person feels like resonance, feels like alignment and peace, not chaos disguised as passion. All right, we're going to move on to part two, what comfort actually feels like within a connection with someone. Comfort is the energy of ease. It's someone you can sit next to without feeling like you have to perform. It's the person you can talk to about your day or be goofy around or feel completely relaxed with, where your personality truly shines, where you can be your most authentic self. Comfort is good, comfort is healthy, comfort is needed. But there's a few parts that people don't always talk about. Sometimes comfort isn't always spiritual alignment. Sometimes it just feels familiar, you feel stagnant. Sometimes it feels comfortable because it reminds you of, certain patterns that you've lived through over the years. Sometimes it's just easy because your nervous system recognizes that dynamic, not the person. And comfort can keep you somewhere that doesn't grow you. Hence why I said stagnant. And those are just some of the bad qualities when it comes to comfort within a connection with someone. It's like, are you in love with them or you're just comfortable and you don't want to go out and do the whole talking phase and the whole 9 yards with another person again. But the good traits of healthy comfort within a connection, within a relationship, isn't boring. It's safety, and you finally feel relaxed into it. Like I was saying at the beginning of this part, you feel like you can be your most authentic self. Your heart feels safe, your soul feels safe. It's the feeling of finally being able to just breathe, the quiet knowing that you don't have to perform, that you don't have to overthink, that you don't have to shrink yourself just to keep their love. Healthy comfort is where your nervous system stops bracing for impact because you're not waiting for the next lie, you're not waiting for the next mood swing or disappointment or disrespect. Healthy comfort within a connection, it's when someone's presence just feels like warmth, not pressure. When a conversation just flows without fear or judgment, when disagreements, they don't turn into war or you versus this person versus the issue. It's you guys together versus the issue in a calm matter. Healthy comfort is also when, being vulnerable doesn't feel risky, it feels natural. You feel relaxed enough to be able to be vulnerable and express those feelings that you have within yourself about whatever it is. This person wouldn't judge you, they would just be there for you and comfort you. Healthy comfort is also consistency, not intensity, not unpredictability, not I love you today, but I'm going to be distant tomorrow. No, it's none of that bullshit. It's someone showing up in the same way they speak. It's actions matching their words. It's emotional steadiness, that kind, that makes you feel grounded, not unsettled and scared and, shifty and concerned about their energy. And the most beautiful part about healthy comfort is that it allows you to keep your spark. It doesn't dim your light, it doesn't dim your fire. It keeps room for you to keep growing, to keep exploring, and to keep expressing your full self because the relationship is a soft landing place, not a fucking battlefield. Healthy comfort is love that feels like home, not because it mirrors your past, but because it mirrors the peace that you've always, 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 always deserved within your life. It's beautiful with the right person, makes you feel like you can just breathe around them, that you don't have pressure, just simply existing around them. You feel emotionally safe and can be emotionally vulnerable and physically vulnerable with this person. Comfort is your body relaxing, but the soul connection is your spirit opening within that beautiful comfort that both of you guys have created. Alrighty, we're going to move on to part three, which is what a soul connection really is. This one is a deep one, all right? So, a soul connection is recognition. Just this familiar kind of feeling that just does not make sense logically. It's slow, it's steady, it's grounding. It's intimacy without really trying at all. A soul deep connection with someone, it's not loud, it's deep. It feels like, what, I've known you forever. I feel safe with you. I can be soft with you. Your presence just regulates me. Like I don't have to pretend to be anything or conform to nothing at all or put on a show. I can just be myself around you. And especially for women with a soul connection with someone, your feminine energy, your feminine presence just feels so completely natural. It goes into overdrive, I guess. It's a good thing where you can naturally just feel feminine with this person and be in that beautiful energy. It also makes you feel like, you're held in ways that you've never been held in before, where your mind is able to just quiet down, where your spirit just feels seen, your emotions feel understood, your vulnerability feels honored and respected. It's not a high, it's grounding, right? It's not anxiety, it's peace. And it's not a performance, it's a homecoming. The soul connection says, you know what, my soul recognizes yours. Because a soul deep connection is something rare. It's not just attraction, it's not just comfort, it's recognition. It's when you finally meet someone and your spirit responds before your mind does. That familiar feeling like you've known them for lifetimes, you can't remember, but your soul never forgot their presence or their energy. Their presence doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you feel understood. Understood in so many ways that you didn't even know that you needed. A soul deep connection truly is not chaotic at all whatsoever. It doesn't demand your attention, it gently pulls you in. It shows up in a way that your energy just softens around them. You know, maybe you had your guard up, and with this person, instantly it just drops without effort. With them, silence, it's never awkward, it's grounding. The eye contact, it feels like a conversation. You know, when you just look at someone like your person, you look at them and you both know what you guys are thinking. And their touch, it doesn't just feel physical, it feels almost spiritual, like it reaches places that you've never really truly have touched in years. And I don't just mean like super physical, sexual way. I mean even like a simple hug that just feels like, yes, this isn't just a regular hug. It feels like a soul deep tie connection, whatever the fuck you want to call it. A soul connection awakens you, not in a dramatic, life shattering way, but in a way that feels like you are coming home to yourself again. It's almost as if their energy like activates certain parts of you that were almost, like asleep. Your intuition or your heart or, your softness or your purpose, whatever it is activated from this person, from this connection. Like I said, not in a life shattering way, in a good way, in a way that makes you feel like you are returning to yourself, or you're opening certain parts about you that you didn't even know that needed to be opened again. Now, this kind of bond doesn't rely on constant contact or performance. It's in the subtle moments, the shared glances or the intuitive understanding or the emotional synchronicity that feels almost telepathic, right? You guys are not chasing anything, you both are not forcing anything. Everything within this beautiful connection just unfolds naturally, as if the universe or God or whomever you believe in aligned two paths for you that were honestly never meant to miss each other. You guys were both meant to end up with each other. A soul deep connection is love that reaches you into your roots and grows you in ways that you didn't know were possible until this person comes into your life. And regardless of how much time goes by with this person, you both still feel the same depth every time you reconnect. Now, that is a soul connection. Let's move on to part 4, how to tell which one you are feeling between the chemistry, between the comfort, and between the soul connection. I'm going to break it down. And I'll break it down with clarity, so that there's no confusion. Start off with chemistry, right? The spark, not the substance. Chemistry is instant, it's electric, it's the feeling that hits you in your chest or in your stomach when you are around this person that you are drawn to. But chemistry doesn't always guarantee you compatibility with this person. Sometimes it's just attraction, and sometimes it's just that trauma bond. Sometimes it's a genuine connection, and sometimes it's your nervous system recognizing an old pattern, calling it excitement. Chemistry, yes, it can be the beginning of something beautiful, but on its own is completely unstable, like I was saying. Without that foundation, it can fade, it can mislead, it can even attach you to someone who doesn't truly align with your values or your future. Chemistry, like I said, is that fire, but that fire can burn out real quick if there's nothing to hold them together. All right, let's move on to that stagnant comfort, feeling safe just because it's familiar, not because it's healthy. And like I was mentioning, that stagnant comfort is when you feel comfortable with someone, but that comfort isn't growth orientated, it's just known. right? It's that connection where you don't feel challenged to grow. You feel emotionally numb or neutral, not inspired. Or, you stay because leaving feels uncomfortable, not because staying nourishes you. And there's no spark, there's no evolution, there's no deeper intimacy developing. This is the comfort that keeps people in long term situationships or outdated relationships or placeholder connections. It feels easy, but it doesn't feel alive. And I definitely do feel like there's a lot of people in this world who are in these stagnant comfort relationships. If we look at the older generations, some of them are just not happy, or those older folks, that you ask them about their connections of 75 years with this person, and they hate their guts, or they just full blown just admit that they stayed out of comfort. To be honest, stagnant comfort is just the illusion of safety. It's not true emotional safety. It's routine without connection. It's coexistence without depth. It's peace on surface, but dissatisfaction all up underneath that. People choose stagnant comfort when they are tired, when they are traumatized, or afraid of starting over, but it doesn't, expand you. It just holds you still. It keeps you stagnant. Why would you want to be stuck in that? And lastly, the soul deep connection, which is the one that I just talked about, the rare, resonant, transformative bond. The soul deep connection that is both grounding and awakening, right? It brings that comfort, not stagnation, chemistry, but no chaos, or peace, but also expansion, that familiar feeling, but it's also growth. You both grow in there. And then the passion, but there is emotional safety. It's not chaotic. You're not going on this roller coaster ride with this person. The connection where your spirit recognizes the other person before your mind even can explain anything logically, right? You feel seen on a level you didn't even know that you needed. You feel emotionally safe and energetically safe. And with that soul deep connection, that stagnant comfort, makes you feel small, whereas the soul connection grows you. Chemistry is unpredictable, it's shaky, it's confusing, but the soul deep connection is a steady magnetic pull. Stagnant comfort also keeps you stuck. A soul connection pulls you forward into the next version of yourself. Not through chaos, not through unpredictability or these life shattering activations, but with calmness, with safety, with togetherness. This is the bond that feels like home, clarity, peace, expansion, destiny, gentle awakening, that warm, fuzzy feeling, that soul deep recognition, that familiar feeling, not because, all of it is intense or dramatic, but because it aligns with your soul, not your wounds or not your habits. It doesn't reflect your traumas. And that's the difference between the soul deep connection and the stagnant and chemistry connections. Bottom line is chemistry wakes you up, stagnant comfort pulls you to sleep, and a soul deep connection brings you home to yourself with safety, with resonance, with this expansive warmness with this person, with growth, with clarity, and with love, unconditional love. It doesn't drain you, it doesn't rush you, it doesn't confuse you, it reveals you in a safe way, in a familiar way, in a comforting way. And with all that, let's move on to part 5, the beauty of intimacy that feels like home. True intimacy and what that feels like is a mixture of all three. It's a mixture of chemistry that excites you, comfort that holds you, and a soul connection that grows you and grounds you. And that intimacy feeling like home is where you feel chosen, where you feel understood, where you feel protected, supported, soft, and safe and seen. Intimacy is not always sexual. And intimacy with a soul connection is like a completely different experience, right? And again, not just sexual, it's also spiritual, it's emotional, it's mental, and it's energetic. It reaches layers of you that, the physical touch alone cannot truly access. It's the kind of intimacy where you feel completely undressed without taking a single piece of clothing off, right? Where your emotions, your fears, your dreams, your truths, they all feel safe in this person's hands, where you can open so many vulnerable parts of yourself that you've never shown anyone, not because you're trying, but because your soul simply deeply trusts this person. And that type of intimacy with a soul deep connection can feel like conversations that feel like a doorway into an inner world. You're not just talking to fill in the silence, you're talking to understand each other's minds, your rhythms, your emotional landscapes between the both of you. And that type of intimacy with that person and that presence that it leaves just feels like a warm blanket around your spirit. You feel like you're held without even being touched, just simply because their energy wraps around you in a way that calms your nervous system and possibly awakens your heart. Intimacy can also look like that eye contact that feels like being seen and chosen at the same time. You're not just stared at by this person, they look into you and they understand you and you understand them. When they're looking at you, you're not feeling judged, you feel embraced. It's like a dialogue without words. That intimacy can also look like vulnerability that feels natural, not forced, right? You open up because your soul knows it's safe. Your feelings flow instead of getting stuck in your throat. That intimacy can also look like energetic closeness. It's not just about the bodies touching, it's like a frequency matching. Your energies just sync in ways that feels like you are remembering, not just learning. It can also look like growth shared between two hearts, right? Not just as lovers, but as mirrors, as healers, as catalysts for each other. Because intimacy is also built through evolution, not just dependency. And that intimacy can also feel like emotional safety. You feel free to cry, to laugh, to fear, to hope, to dream, to be messy, to be chaotic, or whatever the fuck you are going through around this person. And instead of judgment, they meet you with compassion. They don't withdraw from you. They are right there with you as you are for them. Intimacy with a soul deep connection is like the deepest closeness you can experience with another person. Because quite literally, you are merging energies, not just your body. And obviously, the sexual aspect of it all is an extension of your guys' beautiful connection, not the foundation of it all. Because real intimacy is in the way your souls speak to each other long before your hands or your bodies do. Of course, you can have intimacy with someone that you have strong chemistry with, but with that person that you have this strong chemistry attraction towards. But do you guys share the intimacy that I was describing with a soul deep connection? Do you guys share that eye contact or, having silence without it feeling awkward or feeling emotionally safe with this person, feeling vulnerable with this person, and you don't receive judgment? And if you don't truly experience that kind of raw intimacy with your person that you have right now, but you want that for yourself, leave that connection and go find that. It's not worth staying stagnant or simply just staying comfortable within that connection just because you don't want to start over. But are you going to be happy for the rest of your life? Now that brings me to the end of this podcast episode. You deserve intimacy and a love that feels like home. You deserve a connection that honors your softness, your depth, and your divinity within yourself. And when that shows up, you trust it. You will trust it. Don't be scared like, what if I miss this opportunity? You won't. Both of your souls will know. Don't stay in connections that do not fulfill you or do not make you happy. I hope you choose what is best for you when it comes to your love life. Alrighty, beautiful ladies, thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I will chat with you, beautiful souls, in the next one. Take care and take care of yourself. Bye bye.